Hello and welcome back to Serie A Spotlight. We're your hosts Jake and Matt.
You know what time it is!
I can't tell you guys enough how much you've been my internal monologue when thinking about football for the last year.
Yes! Amazing!
We get to record while drinking some wine. Jake and I will have a very special soft spot for Salernitana.
we love him.
We love him. Stop zooming in on Allegri's face, bro. You're gonna make
How
me
are you
break.
exposing me?
Because you're gonna make me break, man. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Serie A Spotlight. This is episode 144 and we're your hosts Matt
And Jake.
and today we're joined by a very, very special guest, one of the most knowledgeable Juve fans I have ever seen, and that's not saying much, unfortunately. I know a lot of casual Juve fans, but Adam, Mr. Adam, kindly introduce yourself, state your alliance.
Well, guys, thank you for having me, first of all.
Pleasure.
As you already said, I'm Adam. I'm a huge Juventus fan. I've been a Juventus fan pretty much all my life. Recently we did another episode together when you came over and took a few shots of parts of my collection. It's not just a Juventus collection. We've got a lot of football memorabilia as well. Trophies, every single World Cup and Euro album. So I encourage anyone who's interested in this stuff to take a look at our previous episode together and tell us what they think.
Exactly.
Absolutely beautiful collection. You have match-worn Baggio kits, every Del Piero kit that has ever existed, I believe.
Pretty much.
Except for one, no? The Dynamo.
The Dele Dynamos.
Dele Dynamos.
And actually I've been trying to find his Padova kit as well.
Oh, wow.
From when he
Okay.
played in Serie B. But it's
Good luck spending under €5,000 on that.
exactly.
But it's an incredible collection and you should totally check it out, guys. For today, we're going to take a more casual approach to our episode. We're going to talk about the league and how it's gone so far this season. And then we're going to move on a little bit to discuss Juve. Lots of changes, lots of movement on this Juve side. And we're curious to hear your takes on it. And then we'll have a special segment at the end of the episode where we talk about the streets won't forget Juve players.
Yes, and perhaps you can educate us on some of the players that we don't know too much about from 90s and early 2000s Juve, when, let's be real, we only used to watch Milan then, and whoever Milan were against us, it was just us playing ourselves. But obviously, if you guys are new here, do check us out on YouTube at Serie A Spotlight, on Instagram as well, on TikTok. We've just we've just created a new account because we were taken down and told, listen, if you want your account back, you need to come to Shanghai and bring a lawyer. We're not going to Shanghai and we don't have a lawyer, so
There's no football to watch in Shanghai.
Unless the Maltese embassy in China wants to help out.
Shout out the Maltese embassy in China.
So if anyone has any contacts in Shanghai, guys, or someone from the Maltese embassy, that would be great. But yep, Spotify, give us a rating over there. Apple Podcast, wherever you guys get your podcasts, drop us a 5-star rating. And on social media, drop us a text, give us a follow. We share love and enjoy connecting with all you beautiful fucks.
So let's get straight into it. Patrons, we'll do it at the end of the episode this time, I believe. Let's not kill the flow.
Fair enough.
Who do you think will fight for the league this season? Many people are saying that Juve haven't been consistent enough. Many people have written Milan off because of their shaky start with Fonseca. What do you think, Adam?
To me, it's no doubt that it's going to be between Inter and Napoli.
Oof.
Now, I just said that I have no doubt, so hopefully I'm wrong because I want Juventus to win. But if I were to say why, first of all, Inter, I think, in my opinion, they're pretty much obligated to win the league. They have the most established team, the most established manager, in my opinion, the best manager in the league. Even though there's Conte, I still say Inzaghi is a better manager on the whole. I will never write off what Conte did, obviously. But I still say Inzaghi is a better manager at the end of the day, at least up until now, from what we've seen. They didn't change much. They didn't lose any star players. They've actually added a couple of very, very important players like Taremi and Zielinski, especially Zielinski, who can play pretty much anywhere you want in midfield. When it comes to Napoli, you've got Conte, who is a brilliant manager, very experienced, won the league with 3 clubs, with Chelsea, with Inter, and obviously with Juventus. They do not have any European competition. which in my opinion, that will have an effect.
Absolutely.
Huge.
And they have a good team. They started out the season, even pre-season, when they had to play against, I think it was not Chievo. They played against a smaller team. No, Modena. They played Modena. And they didn't do well. I mean, they beat them on penalties, but they didn't do well. They started out the season terribly. They lost 3-0. But they got a couple of players that seem to have fit in his system. And I think Napoli can actually do it again this year. So to me, it's between Inter and Napoli. If I had to pick a team, I would still have to go for Inter.
Okay. A few questions on that. Matt and I in the previous episode discussed Inzaghi's lack of rotation and how in a more action-packed season than ever this season, they'll have to rely on certain players to replace the starters, right?
Yes.
Now, the profiles in midfield are very different on the bench than the starting ones. Do you think that this might affect it? And even the likes of Bisek at the back doesn't have that experience to start regularly or to fill in the big boots of some of the starters over there.
Let's start with Bisek. I'm someone who likes to follow the Bundesliga as well. And Bisek was quite a good and promising player there. That said, the fact that Inter apparently seem to be looking into maybe investing in a defender, it could either mean that they're looking at the fact that maybe now that De Vrij isn't young anymore, Acerbi as well.
Yeah.
Maybe that has an impact. Plus, they seem to be conceding some goals this season.
And Pavard has looked human this season.
Yes. Pavard, in my opinion, I wasn't much of a fan of him when he was at Bayern Munich.
Okay.
Because Pavard, in my opinion, is a good centre-back, but with Bayern, he played at right-back. So when Inter bought him, I thought, if they use him as a right centre-back, they made the right choice. But if they bought him as a wing-back, then no. Then definitely not. When it comes to midfield, yes, they have a different profiles. The players vary, but at the same time, I say they're all very good players, and they have an excellent manager. Now, Inzaghi has been criticized for maybe not wanting to rotate that much, but we know another coach who used to do that a lot, Ancelotti.
Yes.
And he had a very good team, and he got the results. More often than not. Now, I'm not saying that this Inter team can be compared to that Milan team, but at the same time, you cannot compare the opposition that Milan had at that time to what Inter have right now.
But you can't compare the schedules either.
Yes, that's true, but I still say that if you have enough quality, at the end of the day, you're going to win. In my opinion, we've had, Leicester happened once in 2016, but if you look at who's won the league over time, more often than not, it's the best team.
Absolutely.
And in my opinion, the best team and the best manager and the best unit right now is Inter. One thing I'll say is, though, that they seem to have a bit of an aging team.
That's it.
Absolutely.
Which is something that they definitely need to look into.
I think we mentioned Acerbi, we mentioned De Vrij. I think Mkhitaryan's one to mention, even though Mkhitaryan's one of the, in an interesting way, a bit easier to replace in midfield because he's the only one with a direct replacement. The direct replacement being Zielinski. Does Zielinski have Mkhitaryan's work ethic? Probably not. But he certainly has similar qualities that would help him bring that to their midfield.
Let me put it this way. Usually they start with Barella, Calhanoglu and Mkhitaryan or Frattesi. Let's say they start with Mkhitaryan for the sake of the argument. Having Zielinski and Frattesi on the bench is a good problem to have.
Absolutely.
Yes, a brilliant problem to have.
Exactly.
And then it's obviously, they have a tight schedule. They have a defense that last season seemed impenetrable, but now they seem to concede more. Even, we're talking about the defenders, even Sommer is looking a bit more human this season. Perhaps he's not looking, you know him well from Bundesliga. I think he would have seen a slight, maybe, demise in how he's playing. I think what Inter have that is strong is obviously their coach and their system.
Yes.
But I think we're also starting to see teams that are getting a bit more used to the way Inter are playing football. The fact that Milan were capable of getting 3 points against Inter is huge. And the fact that other small teams, for example, was it Monza? Monza managed to get a point against Inter. And on the other hand, you see a
Torino
team
played
like
well against them.
Torino played very well. Udinese played very well against them as well. And they're leaking goals, man. They conceded 2 to Udinese. They conceded 2 to Torino against a 10-man Torino. They played Torino at 10 men for 70 minutes and they conceded 2 goals. A game where Zapata did his ACL.
They drew to Genoa.
They drew to Genoa
And they lost to
Milan. And Genoa are looking ass now. So I'm more on the lines, man, of I always like to think the most defensively sound teams are the ones that are going to fight for the league. So definitely not fucking Milan. Definitely not Roma.
But then
I would say it's between, if I had to make my prediction, between Napoli and Juve. I think Juve will grow into the season. We saw Motta have a slower start with Bologna until he got used to the system, and then once he had his 11 guys, man, he had his 11 guys.
I wouldn't write Juve off at all, considering you've only conceded 1 goal and it was a penalty as well once the goals come.
the thing is that's what I was going to say. In fact, the goals need to come. Because if you look at our scores before the Bologna game, the Cagliari game, I think they were all either 3-0 or 0.
This was the first 1-1, like.
Exactly. And there were, I think, a couple of occasions where our first goal was a penalty. So I think, I know we're going to be talking about Juventus in more depth later on, but just one little comment. I think we need to learn to score. This season, we need to learn to score.
What do you think the problem is over? Again, I know we're going to discuss them in
But
further depth, but they're fighting
as
for
well.
the league. Why can't Juve score? Is it Vlahovic?
The thing
Is it
is
as simple as that?
Let me put it this way. One common comment I'm reading online, I'm seeing certain journalists say, obviously you need to filter what certain journalists say. In my view, when it comes to Juventus, the only one I completely listen to is Romeo Agresti.
Shout out.
To me, he's the number one Juventus journalist. People will mention Fabrizio Romano. Obviously, he's brilliant. But Romeo Agresti is the best source when it comes to us. I'm seeing a lot of comments where people are criticizing Juventus and our fans. Every time we find a team that defends, we're not scoring.
The low block.
We need to learn to score. We need to learn how to score. That's pretty much it. Now, Vlahovic is a bit of an enigma. Why? Do I think he's a good player? I think he's a fantastic talent. But the thing is, first of all, we bought him for 80-something million euro as a, I think, 22-year-old, something like that. So the price tag does not help. Secondly, he's on a huge salary now. Because now it wasn't triggered. Basically, his contract was that after a couple of years, he would go up to 12 million. Which obviously for an Italian club is a lot. And third, sometimes he scores brilliant goals, like the 2 he scored against Leipzig. They were 2 very, very good goals. People underestimate the first goal. That was a really good goal. It was a Van Nistelrooy type of goal.
I get what you mean.
Proper striker's goal.
I get what you mean.
And the second one was obviously a work of art. But then he can miss absolute sitters like he did against Cagliari.
Exactly.
Or else he can make certain incorrect decisions. Sometimes he shoots when he can pass. Other times he passes when he should be shooting. Apart from that, I think some of the other players need to step up and help. Yildiz, for example, is a brilliant talent, and I want him to stay there. Obviously,
Generational talent.
I think so too. But the fact that because of Cup Minors, he's playing on the left, it's not helping. But he plays on the left with Turkey as well on occasion. And when he played with Montero, with the under-19s, Montero, being the crazy guy that he has always been, used to play 4-2-4.
Okay.
And Yildiz used to play either as a central midfielder, yes, or else as a left winger. And he played brilliantly in both positions. Now, obviously, there's a huge gap between playing under-19s against Atalanta and playing away in the Champions League, which I get. But we need to grow. Another thing I would say is our fans need to calm down. Why? So, I was hugely critical of our period between 2019 and 2022.
Okay. That's when you initially got rid of Allegri and you tried to bring in Sarri and Pirlo.
Yes.
Okay.
Because we were bringing in players. Partially, I blame Marotta as well. He is the king of free transfers, but he is the king of high salaries as well.
Okay.
and very, very high and long contracts. We would bring in players on long contracts, incredibly high salaries. When Marotta left, or Juventus decided not to keep him, Paratici took his place and made the same mistakes, even worse probably. And we brought in players who were either old or else didn't fit the system. If you're getting a manager like Sarri, who by the way I am not a fan of, but he was the Juventus coach, so I'm obviously going to support him. For the love of God, don't bring him Rabiot and Ramsey.
Yeah, exactly.
Bring him players that can fit into his system.
True. It's so
Rabiot can definitely play under Allegri, it was proven.
Uh-huh.
I'm still not a fan of the player, but he fit into that system. Or lack of system. Even though I still say Allegri is a fantastic coach.
Of course.
Now, obviously under Giuntoli, it's clear. We're going for younger players. When you bring a young player into a team, especially one of the big teams, in Italy the biggest teams are Inter, Juventus and Milan. Even when Milan or Juventus or Inter don't qualify for the Champions League, they finish 7th, 10th, it's irrelevant. Those are the 3 biggest clubs. When you bring a young player, a 19-year-old, playing for those types of clubs, you need to expect them to make mistakes. Let them make mistakes, let them learn, and in my opinion, this is our proper transitional season.
Of course, new coach. People
New-
forget this. New
new
coach, new
everything.
players. Yes,
New everything.
New sporting director. New
Exactly. Giuntoli brought in two new people with him. Pompilio from his Napoli days as well, and Stefano Stefanelli, who was, when I saw Stefanelli's old clubs, he worked for like smaller clubs, Carpi, Verona, Chievo, those kinds of clubs. I thought, all right, we're definitely bringing in a crew of people who know how to work on a tight budget.
Yeah.
Case in point, look at what we did this summer.
Absolutely, yes.
It's crazy.
Yes.
It's crazy.
And the main priority was to remove the deadwood that you
Yes,
mentioned,
exactly.
and it
And-
needed to happen. It was an exorcism, you know,
Exactly.
Literally.
I disagree with some of the transfers.
like
As
the
in-
Sule one.
No, I was completely in favor of that transfer.
Okay.
In what sense? Am I saying I don't think Sola is a good player? No, I'm not saying that. But you have a player who, at the moment, was only a potentially good player.
With half a
He
good
was
season for Frosinone.
Frosinone.
With
With
half a good season with Frosinone, and half of the goals he scored were penalties. And you managed to get 25, 28, something like that million for him. You need to sell him. My disappointment was selling Dean Howson.
Of course.
Dean Howson is
Generation
to go Bournemouth,
Bournemouth.
some shit
Bournemouth,
like that.
Bournemouth.
Ugh.
Dean Howson was a player who was quite unique. When we brought him in, I obviously had no idea who he was. We got him from, I think it was Malaga.
Okay.
He's a Dutch. He's from the Netherlands, but he chose to play for Spain. Dean Howson was a centre back who can score goals. Very strong, very good with the ball at his feet.
Incredible with the ball at his feet.
But you know what his worst trait was? Defending. Now a centre back needs to know how to defend.
Yeah, especially in Italy.
Exactly. But I still say, if we could have kept him, I wanted him to stay.
I think he, like in a Motta system, with
He would have flourished.
Bremer, Gatti, Kalulu.
He would
there
have
are
been
a
the
lot of guys-
Calafiori.
Yes.
And a lot of guys, that for sure. A lot of guys you could learn from as well. And
Yes.
again, Calafiori, okay, he's defensively sound, but Motta, the way that he used him was carrying the ball out from the back, which is an area that now I guess they're trying to fit Kalulu into that, which is it could be the answer. But Huijsen would have been incredible.
I
at
wanted
that.
Calafiori back when he was the captain of the Roma youth team.
I was fighting ball boys on the side.
Really?
You saw the video?
No.
He used to play at left back. And a good friend of mine, Aiden, he'll definitely be watching this episode, is a Roma fan. And this one time I think we were somewhere in Sliema, and I told him, you've got 3 players that I want. Pellegrini, Zaniolo, and Calafiori.
Zaniolo pre-double ACL.
Exactly.
He was
Like his runs
something else, man.
from box to box, like from that half circle from the in front of the penalty. to the other side of the pitch, man. His runs were
He
amazing.
used to run like Theo, man. I always
Yeah,
compare
always.
their stride is very similar.
We talk about that goal that he scored against Sassuolo when he had the whole defensive line on their ass and the goalkeeper as well, and just dinked it over
Oh,
the
he was
keeper.
insane.
Incredible.
That's one of the biggest shames injury-wise that I can remember.
Yes.
Obviously, Pato is another one.
But
But
huge shame.
we didn't ask
The
you-
original Ronaldo.
The original Ronaldo. We didn't ask you who do you think is gonna fight for the league?
I share the same opinion as you, bro. I think it'll be between Napoli, Inter, and Juventus for a good
Napoli and
stretch.
Juve?
Napoli, Inter, and Juve.
Okay.
For a good stretch of the
Milan
season.
don't quite cut it
I don't
for you.
think
Milan
Milan.
top 4, in my opinion.
Milan top 4, I think, but I don't think they'll. I think at one point they'll fizzle out if they get close to competing.
I really like the way Milan, when they're in good form, I really like the way they move the ball. And we've spoken about
Yes,
this,
yes.
obviously, through the middle. I just think there are too many weak points that over...
I think Milan have a good team. Overall.
Excellent team.
Overall,
excellent
I think they have a good team. In Maltese, we'd say mandomx team li tarmiħ. But then at the same time, when I look at that squad and that coach, do I see them as league contenders? Not so much. Mostly because I think that Napoli and Inter are better. I still say they have a few really good players. The transfer market, I'm still not sure. I'm not sure if Milan's transfer market was good or not.
Neither am I.
The centre
I'm being
back,
honest.
yes, definitely.
Pavlovic.
He's amazing. I like the way.
So at
they
least
look
so
of him.
far,
Yes.
So
A
so
few
far, so
mistakes.
good.
I like
Which
the
is you
I like
need
the
to
Morata
expect.
signing. Do I like the lack of big striker signing? No. Things could have been done better.
The Kalulu and Emerson Royal thing is something that I can't wrap my head around. I don't understand. I don't know if they had.
Kalulu was actually our third option.
of course, because Calafiori.
Emerson was
for
our
the ball.
first option.
And Alisson to the
Calafiori
ball,
to
of
the
course.
ball, but when we were linked with Kalulu, I won't say I was over the moon. My first reaction was, all right, we seem to be going for a player who, when he was healthy, he was part of a Milan team that won the league.
I thought
See the 2 goals in a 9-game stretch.
him and Tomori as centre
Exactly.
backs as at 9 games in a row.
Exactly. I still say, as a side note, with all due respect, Inter bottled it. I still say Inter should have won that league,
Thank you, Radu.
personally. But obviously, you can't take anything away from Milan for winning that league. I said he is a versatile player. He can play at fullback. He can play at centre back. He definitely knows how to play with 4 at the back, because that was a bit of a worry of mine. When Thiago Motta came, I kind of said to myself, look, we have a defense that doesn't really know how to play with 4 at the back. I don't even talk about Danilo, because I just don't rate him.
Yeah.
But Bremer with Brazil, he suffers a bit when they play with 4 at the back. He seemed to suffer a bit, and he played in a 3-man defense with Torino and with us. So I wasn't too sure about Bremer with Thiago Motta. Then obviously after the first game I was sure. When Kalulu came, I thought, look, if we can keep him healthy, I think we made a good transfer. Not an excellent transfer, not an Esta, not a Zambrotta, but someone who will definitely help the team. So far, I think I can confidently say he was the best transfer.
The Leipzig game was monstrous.
He was incredible.
Monstrous.
He was incredible.
Yes.
Yeah, a bit injury prone at times. But
Is it injury prone or
Yeah, the
or
injury
is
filled
it
season.
is it injury pro or that he had a very, very long injury? Because there's a difference.
No, he had. I think he had a very disruptive season. And it wasn't one long injury. One was longer than the other, but he had a few hiccups throughout the season. Very long
Prior
and
to that
frustrating.
season, a clean record.
Yes.
So
clean
he's not an
record.
injury
in our
prone.
title-winning season. Clean record.
I just can't
completely.
understand what pushed the Milan management to make this decision. I know Milan operate based
I
on
would say-
algorithms, but Emerson Royal,
Emerson.
20 million and you
Bro,
ditch Kalulu.
Emerson. I never say this.
Forget
but-
Emerson, even though he's a terrible player. Side note, I am a Tottenham fan as well.
Okay.
Because of Davids, he played for them.
Oh, of course.
He didn't do well, but I just followed them to see how he was doing. I saw Robbie Keane, I saw Jermaine Defoe, and I fell in love with the club. Emerson Royal is a terrible player, in my opinion, at least.
No. He's shit. I never say that about players. But
But-
I think everyone's professional for a reason. But Emerson Royal is shit.
When it
He's
comes
bad.
to Kalulu, if you were to ask me why did Milan sell him, personally, I would say it was the will of the player. If a player wants to leave, then he can leave.
I don't know if he wanted. He seemed.
In
I know we
our
can't
case-
really tell,
I
but
think there
in
is
our
a thing
case,
when you
apparently-
come knocking, it's hard to say. No.
In our case, apparently it was that when Juventus contacted him, he said yes, but first he wanted some
like reassurance.
reassurance that Thiago Motta will actually play him.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously we had Gatti and Bremer, and at that point Danilo, who was at the end of the day the captain of the club. So I wouldn't blame the player for having a couple of doubts. But then when he was convinced, he signed for us. So far, so good. Like for me, he should 100% be in our starting 11,
Yeah.
at least in the big games. In certain games, you can rest him.
Let's jump to question number 2.
Yes.
Which players are you keeping an eye on this season? We could do it excluding Juve, maybe,
Let's
or you
do
could mention.
Okay, let's do only niche Juve players.
Alright.
So, there's Cabal, for example, from Hellas Verona, is an
Alright.
interesting player. I like him because he's rough. He's a fucking bulldozer.
I
of a
don't
player.
know why Thiago Motta's not playing him. I have no idea why. Now I think his hand is going to be forced a bit with Bremer's injury.
I think it depends, no? Because Cambiaso in the team, we're talking
I
left
think
back.
Cambiaso
Is
will,
undisputed.
with our injuries right now, because keep in mind that this weekend we're going to be without Conceição, who's suspended,
Yes.
and without Gonzalez, who's injured.
Mhm.
So
Ah.
our options are Mbangola, so far so good.
But the Magula on the right, I'm not too familiar with. I know.
There's
I know him on
Weah,
the
though,
left.
who probably
There's Weah.
Weah should be fit to play this weekend. Should be fit. If he's not, I'd probably see Thiago Motta playing Cambiaso up front as a winger. He does it sometimes. The thing is, Cambiaso doesn't have a fixed position. You see him everywhere.
He's
You
one of
see
those who
him
can play
everywhere.
anyway.
In other teams' cases, probably, well, obviously Morata for nostalgic reasons. I respect him a lot. I love him a lot. Is he the best striker on the planet? He never was and never will be. But he gives everything. He loved Juventus. I personally think he still does. Nothing against him for joining Milan. At the end of the day, he joined a big club. Maybe he wanted to go back to Italy. I don't know.
Bro, he left his wife for me.
Exactly. And I think, although I still say if we tried to sign him for the third time, I think he would have chosen us.
Nah, I don't think so. I think he would have come to Milan.
I think he would have come to Juventus, probably, knowing him. And
He would have been perfect for Motta.
I think so too.
Because he
And
drops
we
deep,
need
he's
someone.
mobile.
We need someone up front. We need another player.
Because you only have Milik, right, as an option of
Exactly.
as a striker,
Who's obviously injured, and I think Milik is a very valid player, but he's injury prone. Like, you literally tell him good morning and he gets injured.
It's true. He's always injured, perma injured.
Exactly. And a player I'm watching, well, actually, it's a team I'm watching this season with a lot of interest is Empoli. They're doing quite well. Again, for Empoli, as in, if Inter were in their position, then obviously I wouldn't say that they're doing well, because Inter are a huge club. But Empoli, given that they're a team that usually fights to either just survive and try not to get battered, this season they're actually doing the opposite. They're doing really
looking
well.
so good.
And in our case, since we obviously need a centre back because of Bremer's injury, I'm following Ismaili a bit. I think he would fit in our system, judging from what I've seen this season. But then, at the same time, two counter arguments to that would be, one, I hate buying a player based on a season.
Piontek.
Case in point.
Stop.
Sometimes it works, like Haaland.
Exactly.
Sometimes it doesn't, like Piontek.
Yeah.
And
That's
secondly,
spectrum.
Complete words.
Exactly,
Piontek
exactly.
to
Piontek
Haaland.
Haaland.
From a scale of Piontek to Haaland. How bad is she?
how bad does your life suck? And another counter argument to what I just said about Ismaili is, it could be the case that he fits in that system. A player who always comes to mind when it comes to this type of argument is Ambrosini.
Mm.
Ambrosini was a player who I believe was very valid, but he fit into that Milan system perfectly with Ancelotti.
Mhm.
When other coaches came, truth be told, to be honest as well, and to be fair to the player, he was getting older. He didn't seem to know what he was doing.
Mm.
Same applies to the national team. When Donadoni gave him a chance with the national team, he didn't really perform. So it could be that Ismaili is doing well in that particular system, or it could be the case that, look, he signs for Inter, Milan, Juventus, and he does well as well.
Mhm.
But definitely we do need a centre back. So
Mhm.
I'm watching a few centre backs here or there. There are a couple of players I like. Another one I like, and it's a bit of an unpopular opinion, is Mancini.
Mancini is
I've
big
like-
balls player.
Like,
you
this
know,
is
you know
something
the
I
guy.
told you and when you came over to film my collection. I've always been a fan of these rough players.
Yes.
Like, I think the last really good rough player I can think of that I really wanted with us was De Rossi.
Mm.
I obviously I knew he would never sign for a rival team, but I really wanted him.
Gattuso, of course,
exactly.
the CEO of
Like
Ruffians.
Gattuso, was he a technical player? Obviously not.
But he wasn't. From what you hear, you would think that he was incompetent with the ball. But
well,
watching
it's
the
not the
games
case.
back, not at all.
No, Gattuso was an excellent leader of the game, and similar to Montero, you're not going to pass because he either takes the ball or your ankle. Obviously, you can't do that nowadays because now we're at the other extreme where if you just shove a player, it's a red card or it's a penalty, which is stupid in my view. So probably the player I'm watching the most, not from Juventus side, at the moment in Serie A, it's Ismaili. My top target as a centre back would be, I'd say, Jonathan Tah from Leverkusen.
Okay.
Tell us about it.
Okay.
Jonathan Tah is very strong, very physical, excellent with the ball. I would say in terms of ball playing, he's similar to Bonucci.
Okay.
But then he is much stronger than Bonucci, and when it comes to defending one-on-one, he's better than him.
Okay.
Or better than when Bonucci was his age.
Okay.
Let's put it
At
that
least.
Let's put it that way. He would obviously come at a price, and he just won the Bundesliga. Bayern Munich wanted him as well. But Jonathan Tah would be a good option. Also, probably an unpopular opinion, but I don't care, I would consider bringing back Rugani.
He's currently on loan at Ajax, right?
Yes. I have no idea how he's doing. Absolutely no idea. But when he played for us, he never complained, always did his job. If he spent like, I don't know, a couple of months on the bench and then he was asked to play because both Chiellini and Bonucci were injured, he came in and he did his best and usually he got the job done. Did he make mistakes? Yes, he did. I remember when we played against Inter away in the Coppa Italia, we lost by 3-0, but we won the first leg at home by 3-0 as well. So we knocked them out on penalties. And Rugani had a terrible game. Terrible game. But I think those types of performances make you grow as a player. And I think Rugani, especially last season and the year before, I think he played really well. Now, if he doesn't fit in the manager's system, then alright, fuck it, we go for someone else. But me personally, I think Rugani would be a good option.
Would it be as simple as a recall? Could you?
I don't think so. I don't think it's as simple as that. But if he's not playing that much,
He 2 starts I saw from this.
if he's not playing that much and he would be open to coming back, then definitely I would welcome him back with open arms.
You might just get yourselves a Gabbia. That was
Exactly.
He saved our season.
Bro,
Yeah.
he saved us. He saved my life. Bro.
He saved
is
my life,
He's
yeah.
my favorite player in the world at the moment.
They might give him the armband in the next game, you
Give
know?
him the
Theo's
arm-
injured.
give
He's
him the armband. I'll give him my car if I were to see him.
Officially, is Calabria
take
still
the
the
Kia.
captain?
Calabria is still the
Officially.
captain in theory, yes.
Yeah.
And
In
I
our
think he's
case,
still our best right back.
I think
personally.
similar to us with Danilo being officially the captain, but Bremer and Gatti were the ones wearing the armband. Now it's obviously Gatti all the time.
Yeah.
So you mentioned Empoli, and I can't hear the word Empoli without mentioning this guy. Fazzini is a
Fazzini,
player
yes.
that I
Remarkable,
absolutely adore. And just to mention another guy, doesn't have anything to do with Empoli, but the player that has in Maltese Jabli Aineya Wara with Neya, just a player that's driving me mad, is Nico Paz.
Yes.
Nico Paz is a sensational player.
He's a natural talent, that type of player.
Literally, he is the epitome of a Spanish number 10. If you know Isco, if you know Asensio, if you know Iniesta, he's kind of
Fantasista vibes.
that kind of mold. So I can't believe the deal that Real Madrid did. I don't know how much it was bought for. If it was a free transfer or whatever, you could figure that out. It would be excellent. But there's no buyback option, but there's a right to first refusal.
6 million.
6 million. You're taking the piss, bro.
I swear, from Castilla. Real Madrid Castilla. Yeah.
That's mental, 6 million. But they have right to first refusal. So if these guys are offered in future 60 million from Bayern Munich who want to sign Nico Paz, they go to Real Madrid, say, look, we're gonna say yes to a 60 million offer to Bayern Munich. So are you willing to give us 60 million instead? They say yes, okay, then he's going to you. It's a bit of a strange deal from Real, who typically like keeping their hands firm on players like Brahim Diaz, Morata.
Carvajal, they sold him to Leverkusen and they had a buyback clause, which they obviously triggered, rightly so. Parma are doing well as well this season.
Parma,
as in they're playing well, not doing
fun.
well.
Bernabé is one heck of a footballer.
Even Bonny up front is
Bonny's one of my favorite strikers.
Parma this year, I would call them a very annoying team to play against.
They remind me of the
Crotones,
the Venezias that we've seen recently. They score a lot, but they concede a lot as well. So it's just a game where you have to make sure you're going to score, because they're going to score again.
I don't see Venezia staying up this season.
No, not even.
They're one of the weaker teams.
I'd love them to stay up because they have Hans Nicolas Caviglia,
who's playing well.
Who I believe is a very good player and a very good talent. But again, we wanted to get young players who are at the same time maybe a bit more established than the ones we had, so certain sacrifices had to be made.
I'll give a shout out to Shea Adams.
Shea Adams is fun to watch.
I think he's been good.
Daniel Maldini.
Who's
playing really well. Breakout season for him.
It was nice to see him debut for the national team.
Third generation.
Richie has caught the attention of a certain Pep Guardiola as well through his performances.
So Kairos already licking his lips.
Literally. That's
if I were him,
I
would not go there.
The City, no, he'd ruin everything. He should play. He needs to play.
Exactly. That's exactly it. I don't see them dropping. All right,
Rodri's injured for like 14 months. But there's
Gundogan and Kovacic. Keep that in mind.
Different role, huh?
Different league though for Richie.
True, but still central.
Deployable. They're still deployable. It's true.
Still central midfield. So if I were him, I think his next natural move, in my opinion, should be Inter or Milan. Like in our case,
I like one of those shouts.
In our case, in my opinion, our midfield is actually quite settled, even though half of them are injured at the moment.
It's okay. You have one who's recovering from his drug addiction.
He would fit Milan perfectly in the register.
Richie?
Yes,
100%.
I think so. He doesn't really suit Inter personally because they have Aslani. He hardly got a sniff because it's not. There's no real place for him in that team.
Aslani is such a good player.
He's a really good player, man. But with that Inter team, he doesn't fit us. Yeah. Yes, there are quite a few players. I'm really enjoying Albert Goodmanson, and I have a feeling now that he is technically innocent. He's gonna go mental.
I think so.
Allegedly innocent, yes.
Keeping in mind breaking news. He had that case kind of, well, I guess, towering over him.
Like a feeling of impending doom.
Exactly.
Probably.
He still played well.
Yeah.
He still played really, really well.
Yeah, he's super.
Probably anxious that he had someone else locked in his basement while he was playing.
Yes, I mean, other than that, when it comes to players, there are always, the Lorenzo Lucca. We love Lorenzo Lucca over here. Very fun.
Football manager god.
Yeah, and, exactly. You know.
Tuvon has been injured for a while, but when he was fit with revitalized number 10 captain, he's been incredible for Udinese.
And keep in mind, Alexis Sanchez hasn't featured.
An Udinese player I used to like a few years ago. When I say I used to like him, I'm not saying that I wanted him to sign for my club, but someone like Cyril Theroux.
Very a cult hero.
Exactly. Like a Moscardelli or
there were so many.
The former Chievo captain.
Pellissier.
Exactly.
Great player.
He scored the hat-trick against us.
He kind of technically resaved Chievo.
Yes.
It's amazing. Saved.
Like Christian Lucarelli with Livorno. I love those types of players.
Not Cherino for me. They're cult heroes.
Back in the day, Piacenza had Dario Hubner.
Of course. Oh my god.
We mentioned Udinese, and I can't not mention Zarraga. And there's another guy, I can't quite remember his name, in center midfield. Sorry, the right wing back. We mentioned him. Zemura. He's also been fucking awesome for
Udinese started quite well
man.
as well.
They often do.
Udinese.
Udinese and Torino started the season, and they will fade out, obviously. I don't see them qualifying for...
That's what we said about Bologna.
But who do you see?
But they often do this.
Who do you see getting relegated? This is the part I enjoy the most.
Venezia and Monza.
Ooh, Monza.
Yes.
Monza done.
Venezia, Monza, and Lecce.
Ooh.
I think Genoa will survive.
Let me just check the...
So as it stands, Venezia, Monza have 4 points. Genoa and Lecce have 5 points. Parma, Cagliari on 6 points, and then you have the rest on 8.
Venezia, Lecce, Cagliari.
Like Cagliari, Parma, Cagliari and Parma, in my opinion, are good enough to do it. They're good enough to stay.
I hope so. I love them both, especially Cagliari.
Cagliari are weak on paper.
Cagliari
They don't really have a lot.
Season, no.
Still, I think they're better than Venezia, than Lecce, and then Monza.
Monza
I
have
don't
it in
think
them
so.
to
I
revitalize
think
their
Monza
season.
might have a good team, but they're
if,
such a shit show at the moment.
but if they change, my point is, if Monza change their manager tomorrow and Cagliari change their manager tomorrow, who will benefit more from that change?
Depends on who that manager is. and
Depends
what
on
they
who the
can
manager
do.
is, of course, but I feel like Monza have a lot more talent to work with. Cagliari, if it's not a flat 4-4-2 Ranieri system, then they're gonna
They're
fucking
changing.
struggle.
They're gonna go to a 4-2-3-1.
I don't
They're
know,
gonna
but-
move Luvumbo on the left and to try to get him to feed Piccoli a little bit better.
Okay.
I
he's
don't
been
know what
invisible.
it is, but man, these Nicola teams, I've got something for them. I like them.
Same.
No, I mean,
I think he has it in him to save them.
We
my
had
opinion.
Joseph Minala on, and he played for Nicola at Bari. And he told us that when Nicola comes, even though it was for a short time and Minala was only there on loan, the way he talks and the stories he tells and the way he brings the dressing room together, Minala said he would have died for him. It would be incredible, like the amount of the impression he left on him in 6 months.
I don't see him coaching a big team.
No,
I don't see him coaching a Fiorentina, Lazio. No.
well, he's a plug and play. In fact, I was surprised that Cagliari signed him from the get go. I don't think he plays an awful brand of football. I think he plays.
No.
He's the kind of man. He needs explosive players, man. He needs explosive players that are tactically sound, defensive, and aggressive.
I think he's limited to a certain type of team, and there's nothing wrong about that. Nothing at all.
He's
Bro,
good
he
to
should
put him
become
in the fire. He's an extinguisher.
Exactly.
That's it.
I want to hear him in public speaking, man, Davide Nicola,
yeah.
because if he manages to get a team like Salernitana, like Empoli, pardon me,
Exactly.
It'd be like one of those black and white videos of Dom Mintov.
Who do you think will go down, bro?
I think at the moment I have to say Genoa because it's like the only players they have left are all dropping like flies. Another player fell injured. I forgot who it was. Another important player. De Winter, I believe. De Winter is injured. I believe.
Another Juventus X.
Another Juventus X.
Milan want Friendrup.
Yes, Milan want Friendrup. Now it's going to be a fire sale for them. They've brought in Gaston Pereiro in an attempt to kind of find a player to create something for them. That screams desperation to me. Obviously, Malinovsky, their only playmaker that they didn't bloody sell, twisted his ankle like one of Vecna's victims in Stranger Things. So I think Genoa, what we're seeing is reminding me of the last time they got relegated when they had also gone bankrupt as well. 777 had just taken over. It's eerily similar to me.
It's definitely a good shout. As in, to say
What a
that Genoa
coach!
could-
What a coach, though, man.
He's a
I
good
love
coach, but they
Gerardino,
might
man.
sack him, for example.
That would be.
That would be disastrous in my
Bro,
opinion.
that's the worst thing
think
they can
would
do.
sack him.
It's the worst thing they could do,
Exactly.
no, man.
Exactly. I definitely agree with you. I don't see them sacking him because everyone and anyone in their right mind knows that Gerardino is actually one of the few positive aspects of that team.
Absolutely, yes.
And alright, if you second, who the hell are you going to bring in?
I think bring in Ballardini from now, like. It's not exactly
I
a great
think they'll
job.
stay with Gilardino. Plus, even financially, keep in mind that if they sack him, they still need to pay him.
That's true. That's true.
And now they obviously need to save as much money as they possibly can.
But it's all sorted now, because they're signing Balotelli.
So that's one of
all
our next questions. What do you think about that? For me personally, I don't care if it's good or bad. I want it to happen.
What do I think about the player, or do I think about the player signing?
Bro, give us the full experience.
Give us the Balotelli
everything.
I would say
Experience.
Balotelli is one of the biggest what ifs in football.
Yeah.
I think Balotelli is talent that was wasted on the wrong character. Because I believe, especially with Inter, he was brilliant. The talent was clearly there. And the fact that Liverpool, City and Milan all signed him, they all saw something in him. And I personally don't believe that the management of those three clubs were all crazy. There was something that they saw in him. Did he do well with Liverpool, for example? Obviously not. But in my opinion, on the couple of occasions where he was linked with Juventus, I was not happy. First of all, I don't like him. He hates us. He's a Milan fan who played for Inter.
And wore the Milan kit on national television.
As an Inter player.
As an Inter player.
My favorite thing that has ever
It's the
happened
craziest thing I've
ever.
done. I was too
in
young
the
to
world.
understand it.
Can you fucking imagine that?
Yeah.
Can you imagine? Derby della Madonnina, you're injured, you can't play, and you show up in an opposition team's kit.
Imagine with nowadays, like social media, the way it is nowadays, everyone would go crazy.
Imagine Lautaro doing that.
And he's their captain.
And he's their captain, or like Taremi, some
Oh my
shit.
God.
Would be the best.
Balotelli, I think he should have never left Inter. God knows what would have happened if he stayed with the people who came after Mourinho. Benitez, Mazzarri,
Who didn't come after?
Stramaccioni, Ranieri, miskin, poor guy.
Gasperini, I think.
Gasperini,
Pioli.
Of course, Pioli coached Inter as well. Even though I criticize him, as in his character, I also believe that the media targeted him a lot.
Balotelli, of
Yes.
course, of course.
I think the media was, all eyes were on him. He couldn't do anything without it being reported in the media. And to be honest, he didn't do stuff that other people didn't do. Apart from the fireworks thing, which was fireworks.
Yeah.
But then, one thing I didn't like about him on the pitch was his hard-headedness at times. And he was lazy, man. He was so lazy. Good player, very, very good shot. Like his shooting, man, was amazing. Especially when he shoot from 3/4 of the pitch.
Was it against Parma?
I don't know who it was against, but Bologna, I think.
Could
That
be.
goal from way out, man.
Yeah, he doesn't move.
And he didn't even
Exactly.
celebrate. He was
Exactly.
like nothing happened.
Great penalty taker, great free kicks as well, in my view. But he's too much work.
Yes, he's high maintenance.
It's also it's hilarious how this is the solution for Genoa, right? Because Genoa got Pinamonti, okay? They have Vitinha, who needs to learn to be a bit more of an Albert Goodmanson to
Yes,
link the
he needs to
midfield
move
to the
around more.
attack. They have Friendrup in midfield, of course. Messias is always injured. Malinowski is always injured. They need to fix that midfield situation. But no, forget it. Mario fucking Balotelli.
If they do
right
sign
now.
him and it works out, it will be a beautiful story. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And
For,
I
for
hope he
both
does
club,
well.
for both club and player.
This guy 2 years ago had a good season in Turkey. Yeah.
Yes.
He did 9 stepovers.
That's the
what
thing
you saw
is he's totally unpredictable, Balotelli.
Yes.
You never know what you're gonna get.
Yes.
You never know. And we talked about the spectrum before of whatever it was,
Piontek to
Piontek
Haaland.
Haaland. Balotelli needs his own spectrum because he will either ruin a game for you or he'll win it for you. There's no in between. Like he's a phenomenon.
But you
he's
know
a weird
what?
player.
Before, I feel like everyone knew about Balotelli's talent.
Yes.
And I think everyone knew he was a bad boy. He kind of liked that. It fed into his ego a little bit. And I don't think he had much to prove to anyone. I think
Imagine
now
that
people think
talent.
he's washed. I think people now think he's washed, and I think it pisses him off. I think he's
Imagine
driven.
that talent on someone like Gary Neville,
Ah.
who gave everything on the pitch every single time.
Can you imagine Gary Neville shooting from 3/4 of the pitch?
Another one is Cassano, man.
Oh.
Cassano was incredible.
He played with half a heart at Milan. He did really well.
Literally, man. Literally.
No, Cassano.
Another very
It's
intelligent
unfortunate that
playmaker.
he's such a twat. Because he's a twat. It's unfortunate. Because
And when I hear him talk about football, he either says something really brilliant or he says something really stupid.
But the thing is, he always catches the headlines, no? And
Yes.
that's part of it. I mean,
Well, there's him, Madani, and Ventola. They used to be part of Bobo TV with Vieri. Now they've gone their separate ways. I'm quite sure that most of the stuff that they do and say is because obviously people will latch onto it. Adani is another one, and Adani was a terrible player, but when you hear him talk about football, you think it's Cruyff or Maradona talking when it's Lele Adani.
So we jump to the next one, just so you're aware, 50 minutes in, not too bad.
We're doing well.
What do you think of Lazio this season? It's an interesting one, and it's a conversation that divides rooms.
Lazio, I think they're a tricky team to play against this season. Quite unpredictable. They have a coach who isn't afraid of playing. I would say they will challenge for a place in Europe. Not sure if it's Champions League football. Because in my view, the top four will be, I'm not sure of the order, but the top four will be Inter, Napoli, Juventus and Milan. But I see Lazio doing better than obviously Bologna this year. Bologna forget about Champions League football.
Will they do better than Fiorentina is the question, who seem to be coming into their stride?
I'm not sure.
Or Atalanta?
Personally, I think that Fiorentina, at the moment, obviously I can only speak about what we've seen so far. I think that the fifth team is Atalanta.
I agree.
Potentially the fourth team as well, depending on, I would say, our two clubs. Depending on what we
It's
do.
true, because
Depending on Milan, that's really...
Even Juventus, in my
it could be
opinion.
disastrous. Hopefully the coefficient saves us again.
But then you've got, after Atalanta, I see Fiorentina,
Okay.
Roma, and Lazio. Unless I'm missing
So
something.
conference. You're seeing them in conference.
No, not in that order. As in those three clubs
Yes,
fighting
they
for
fall
a
under, they fall
Europa
under the
League
same
place.
category. I see Lazio as a 6th, 7th. It to me it depends on what Fiorentina do, because there's a world
And
where
Roma, I don't know. Roma
Roma, weird
Roma
right
are
now.
a mess. Roma are a mess.
I have no idea why they sacked De Rossi. I mean, man, you got him the players you wanted. Give him some time. Juric is a valid coach. I like him. Is he Roma material?
But is it not like buying the ingredients for
Exactly.
a carbonara and making a bolognese?
When you already had the ingredients for a bolognese before, because now they went from Mourinho.
And
Now
They
you're
had
making me
all
hungry.
exactly. They had all the play. They were buying players to fit Mourinho's system. They sacked Mourinho, brought in De Rossi. They slowly started phasing out the Mourinho players to bring in players for De Rossi's style. And then they sacked De Rossi, and now they brought in a manager similar kind of to Mourinho's style.
Imagine a bolognese with guanciale.
That's it.
Sorry.
That's what they're doing. Roma right now are bolognese with guanciale. That's what they are right now.
Surfside.
And there's a lot
similar
of
to
pressure,
that.
and after every result, the media goes mental. De Rossi's still waiting, lingering on the sides. His faith is unquestionable. All they need to do is give him a phone call, and he'll be back, and all this.
Why?
Like, come on, man.
Why?
Come on. Let him work in serenity. He's been in charge for 4 games.
Exactly.
Madonna. They're not fair on any of the managers.
No.
But
And
just
Lazio have a very underrated coach, in my opinion.
Baroni.
Yes.
As in...
He did a miracle at Hellas last season.
Yes.
He turned Hellas' season around. Hellas looks fucking good. By the end of it, they were not candidates for relegation.
No.
And I think he's at Lazio for a good reason. It's just, you mentioned earlier, Ad, that you don't like it when people are signed because of what they did over one season.
Exactly.
And I see a bit of an element of that with Baroni, to the point where I think, and it's a genuine question because I think very highly of him, but is it a bit too big for him? And then I started seeing the signings that they were making, and I'm like, is it too big for these guys as well? Because the signings they were making, like, I'm a fan of them, but are they the signings, and is it the manager they want to battle for top 4? No, but I think it's slowly building a system and building an identity that is going to sustainably take them back to top 4.
Similar to where we are, as in obviously our ambition is to win the league eventually, but we brought in a coach who plays a certain type of game, whether people like it or not. Personally, I like it.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, you need to give him the players that fit into his system. For example, at first, last summer, people like Milik were out of the team. Did I agree? No, because I felt that Milik was a valid player. We didn't manage to sell him, because obviously he was injured. Who's going to buy an injured player?
Mm-hmm.
So he was reintegrated back in the team. Same applies to McKennie.
There's a muscular injury at the moment, McKennie,
Yes.
is it not?
And a very beautiful girlfriend.
Frattesi's sister.
Frattesi's sister, that's a fucking...
Um,
that's a move. It's a move, hey.
It's a move. It's a move. I'm sure the Juve fans are very happy about that.
In my opinion, if you're bringing in a coach, you need to bring him the players that suit his style.
Mm-hmm.
We made that huge mistake with Sarri. We brought him in and we didn't give him the proper team. Like when we brought in Sarri, our fullbacks were Spinazzola and Cancelo. Perfect for him.
Yes. Spinazzola back then was actually...
No,
I'm
before
laughing
he,
at
before
him
he
now.
got hurt. Before he got hurt.
Uh-huh.
We replaced them with Danilo, and obviously since Spinazzola left, Alexandro took his place back in the starting 11. Now Alexandro was brilliant in his first 2 years with us.
And then
I say he was the third best left back in the world at that time. Second to obviously Marcelo, no argument there. And probably it was between Alaba, who was still playing at left back, and Jordi Alba. But other than those 2-3 players, I don't think there was anyone as good as Alexandro.
no, Alexandro was a
Those
beast.
two years, he was amazing.
He
But
regressed very quickly. It's
Yes.
weird what happened.
literally, his last good, really good game for us was when we lost the Champions League final against Real Madrid.
Was there an injury?
No.
It just...
Like, for example, not like Asamoah's case. Asamoah, when we brought him in, we thought, alright, we're getting a good box-to-box midfielder. Contemplate him at left wing back.
Classic.
And he did well. But then when he got hurt, he just couldn't recover anymore. And when Inter, they didn't buy him from us. We either released him from his contract or we didn't renew. It was one of those two cases. Inter signed him. I was like, why are they signing him? In fact, they didn't do anything with them. So I think back to what we said about Lazio, if you got a coach who plays a certain type of game, bring him, sign the players that can play that type of football. Because if you don't, it's pretty much a recipe for a disaster, I guess.
No, that's it.
So I think we can move on to the Juve part of the episode. So brother, the first question for you is, what are your thoughts on Thiago Motta?
Well, when he was linked with the club, I was pleasantly surprised because I was expecting bigger clubs to go for him as well. It was reported that he did have offers from abroad. Agresti said that there were a couple of English clubs who were interested in him. He never said who they were, but if you look at the clubs who changed coach, probably Chelsea, maybe Manchester United. Not too sure about Liverpool because they seem to have a very clear plan. It was either Xabi Alonso or else Slot. It was said that when he gave us his word back in February that he's signing for us in summer, Milan tried to get him.
Yes.
But I guess he had given us his word. Plus, it seemed like he was excited with our project. Plus, Giuntoli wanted him.
Yes.
Apparently, the second option was Conceição,
Of Porto. Yes,
Yes.
Milan wanted him as well.
ex-Inter and Lazio player. I was happy with Thiago Motta, but my issue was this. I thought, alright, we're getting a coach who did brilliantly well with Bologna, but the step up between Bologna and Juventus is quite big.
Mm-hmm.
So a friend of mine asked me what I thought about it. He supports Inter. I said, look, it could be a Conte move, because Conte did shit before he came to Juventus. Got relegated a couple of times. Best thing he did before he signed for us was, I think, he got promoted with Siena, if I recall correctly.
Okay.
When we were in Serie B, we actually got him relegated to Serie C1. The same game where we mathematically got promoted to Serie A, we faced Arezzo. He was their manager. We beat them 5-1 or 6-1. I think it was 5-1. We got promoted. They got relegated. So he was quite a risk. With Thiago Motta, I thought, look, he did a good job with Spezia.
Yes,
He did a decent job with Genoa. He did a good job with Bologna. So I thought, all right, we need to give him time. He's a young coach. And we definitely need to bring him. We need to sign the players he needs that fit his style. And we had quite an overhaul this summer. The team is hardly recognizable from last year, in a good way, in my opinion. So in terms of Thiago Motta, overall so far, I think it's so far so good. It's a work in progress. We can't expect miracles. We need to walk before we run. But I think we're in the right direction.
So it's a long-term project.
In my opinion, yes.
Yes, absolutely. And I think Giuntoli views it the
like
same
if
way
this season you were to ask me what my targets as a supporter are, hopefully win the Coppa Italia again. It's doable. To be honest, we're quite lucky because we're in the easier bracket. So the final would be obviously difficult, but I mean, you can't expect to play an easy team in the final, usually at least.
Especially when all the teams are concentrated at the top, right? All the good teams.
Comfortably qualify for the Champions League, and then if Inter and Napoli slip up, hopefully we're there to capitalize on it. If not, fine. I still say Inter and Napoli are overall better than us at the moment. And when it comes to the Champions League, hopefully we just don't look like fools. As in, I'd like to qualify for the next round, whether it's automatically with the top 8 or as part of the playoff, I don't care. And then it obviously depends on who you face. I mean, if you're facing a Real Madrid, Liverpool, even though Real Madrid haven't started the season well, they are Real Madrid.
Yes.
I can ask you while we're on the topic. You strike me as a football purist. What's your take on the new Champions League format?
I actually like it.
You know, even I
like it. At first, I thought.
impressed by it.
At first, it took me a while to understand it, if I'm being honest with you. But then when I fully got it, I thought, all right, it's a new system. It is a rip-off, roughly, of the Super League.
Yes.
They didn't want the Super League, so they created it themselves.
But that brings me joy, because at least they got something. The Super League enthusiasts, the Florentino Perez's of the world.
I personally
they got
was in
something.
favor of the Super League, and I'll be honest why. I'm going to be very honest and very biased why. I am a football purist, but at the same time, I want my club to succeed. Now the thing is this. Probably I was in favor of it because my club wanted it. Now if my club wanted it, they knew that they would be getting for 150 million euro a year.
This would level the playing field.
Hopefully. So I thought, look, my club wants it, then it should benefit the club. Apart from that, now I understand why people are against it, but I will never accept UEFA's and FIFA's argument about it. It's for the people and all of that stuff. When the World Cup final is already pre-booked by like 75% and they're mostly millionaires.
Yeah.
It's not the people's game anymore. So don't give me that bullshit. I was totally against the format. Like, I can never accept a tournament that's based on the same teams every single year. No. But I was definitely in favor of a competition for UEFA.
Yes.
And in my opinion, the 9 clubs that bailed, Inter, Milan, the English clubs.
Every single one of them.
Yes.
I think the only ones that remained on board were Barca, Real and Juve.
Yes. To me, they succumbed to the pressure of people like... I'll mention Gary Neville as an example. I have a lot of respect for him, but he was one of the people who was very vocal about the Super League, But at the same time, he was some ambassador to the World Cup in 2022.
And the Premier League in itself is a Super League because the Championship was I believe, the highest level in England.
So he
before,
didn't want
you know.
Manchester United to get the money from an American bank that was pushing for the Super League. But then he was fine with getting the money he got from Qatar.
Yes.
And we know a lot of things about that country and about that World Cup specifically. He was okay with that.
Yeah.
So to me, it was a bit of two ways to measures. Back to the format of the current Champions League. Personally, I like it. It seems interesting. You get to see, hopefully you get to see smaller clubs maybe do well. But at the same time, it's only been 2 matches, so it's still early days. But at the same time, we've already seen big teams like Milan not get a single point.
Yeah.
Even though they deserve to get something against Leverkusen, in my opinion.
Yes, and the 2 games were quite tough. On paper, they were the toughest
Yes,
for Milan.
yes.
The one thing I totally disagreed with when it came to the Super League was the whole focus on meritocracy. The whole protect the teams that have a good history. Because how is history relevant to your current form? That's the beauty of football.
No, when I say I was in favor of the Super League, I mean I was in favor of something that can compete. The format itself, I was obviously against it. As in, I definitely agreed that it had to be, at the bare minimum, tweaked.
Yes.
Actually, it needed an overhaul. But for people to say that they're against the Super League because they're football purists and all of that stuff.
No, I think there are way more valid points to put forward against the Super League than that. You mentioned meritocracy, and I think that's the one thing I disagree with this new format, is that some teams, if they have a bad season domestically, then they're almost safeguarded because of their history. Because I believe there's a certain quota that allows historically successful teams.
But it's not in place, right? It's not in place
with the current champion. I don't know because it's the first season.
That was the proposal of the Super League, where they say, for example, Milan will always be in it because Milan have 7 Champions
That was
Leagues,
the original proposal.
Even if they finish 10th in the
Exactly.
league, they're in the
That
Champions
was the
League.
original
Yes.
proposal, which obviously I was against. The current, the new Champions League format, they do follow the UEFA coefficient.
Yes.
Case in point, you had teams that were league winners, but they weren't in the first pot. So UEFA were looking at recent history, I guess, which I get. I do get.
That's fine.
Exactly.
Because leagues have phases, like everything
They
else,
do.
right? Sometimes the Bundesliga is stronger than the Serie A, for example. Sometimes the Serie A is
But then you've got the club coefficient as well. You've got the league coefficient. So you've got the Premier League, Serie A, La Liga, Liga, and all of that. But then you've got the actual club coefficient. So for example, someone like Real Madrid would definitely be in pot 1. In our case, since in recent years we didn't do well, we would probably be in pot 2.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So if say we win the league this year, we still wouldn't be guaranteed to be in pot 1.
Yeah.
At least as far as I know, this year.
I wonder what's the time frame they take into consideration? I don't know if you know, right?
In the past, so in recent history, pot 1 used to be the league winners plus the Champions League title holder and the Europa League winner as well. But in the past, it really depended on your coefficient.
Okay.
In fact, when we won the league with Conte, we were obviously not a pot 1 team, because the last time we played in the Champions League was in 2009. But keep in mind that we played in Serie B. So obviously that was 2 seasons with no European football.
Yeah.
Apart from that, we got knocked out in very early stages, like round of 16 and all of that stuff. Then we had a couple of seasons without Champions League football. Under Del Neri, we played in the Europa League. And in Conte's first season, we had no European football. So we were in pot 2. In fact, we in that season, in 2012-2013, we were drawn with Chelsea, who were the Champions League winners of the previous year. Obviously, they were in pot 1, we were in pot 2, and we had Shakhtar from pot 3. So
was this when Oscar scored those goals?
Yes, Oscar scored twice, and then we were two goals down, and then we drew. Vidal he actually played injured. He scored the 2-1. Quagliarella got the 2-2 and then he hit the post. We could have won. But then we actually destroyed them at home. Then Conte was suspended at that time.
Nah, classic. Just going back to Thiago Motta a little bit, if I may. I think the season will be a little bit different for him. You mentioned, obviously, you drew comparison to the season with Bologna. You said that, obviously, Juve is a step higher for him. There's a lot more on the line. I also feel like he, for the first time ever, has pressure on him. Because with Bologna, they were a team that were trying to get top 10 after they went through a dreadful spell in Mihailovic's last few years.
They would have been happy with Conference League. That's
like 14th, 13th they were under
any type of
Sinisa.
European football, they would have been over the moon.
Exactly. And obviously he was overachieving, so anything the guy did was a blessing. He's a saint. He'll forever be remembered by the city no matter what. Now at Juve, there's a lot on the line because Juve want a league title. Definitely want a league title. And this project is to get that. And after Juve had gone 9 seasons consecutively winning the league, what did Juve want? Okay, get rid of Allegri, let's focus on Champions League. And they tried with Sarri, they tried with Pirlo, and then they folded, went back to Allegri, kind of ditched the plan of the Champions League. And then there was like a Calciopoli Part 2. And you once again missed out on Champions League, and thank you very much, handed Champions League to us because we finished with that season.
Although you didn't do a really good job at that.
We try our hardest all the time. But now, Motta, the spotlight is on him. And it's like the first time ever that he has these 2 goals that he needs to... Like, he's always going to miss out on something. If he puts all his eggs in one basket, he's missing out on Champions League or on Serie A. So it's this really unique position to be in.
There's a lot of pressure on him, but obviously you can't compare the same person from player to coach. Obviously, there's a difference. But him as a person, he's used to pressure. He played for Barcelona, he played for Inter, he played for PSG, played for the national team. He wore the number 10 for the national team. So I think he's used to some type of pressure as a person. As a manager, I think the thing he has in his favor for this season is the fact that most, I think, sensible Juventus supporters know that this is our proper year of transition. So everything is new, totally new. So we can't expect miracles. I think the pressure will increase definitely next year. Whether he wins or not this season, let's say this season he finishes 3rd. I think most Juventus supporters will say, all right, it's fine.
Is a trophy this season acceptable?
I would say so. Because the thing is, we can win the Super Cup, so what? So what? To me, winning the Super Cup and finishing 7th is not a good season. To me, finishing 3rd, 2nd, or by some miracle winning the league is a good season. Winning the Coppa Italia would be nice. I would like us to win the Coppa Italia again, just for us to say that we won a trophy at least. But let's say we get to the final, lose against Inter. It wouldn't be nice, but you're losing against a really strong
I guess
team.
it depends how you lose, right?
Exactly. In my opinion, whatever he does this season is irrelevant compared to next season. Whether we win something or not, whether we place 3rd or not, I think the pressure is going to be very high next year, because I don't see us signing a lot of players next season, because we won't need to. We need 2-3 players, but we won't need like 11 players like we did this season.
The spine is set.
I would say so, yes.
Exactly.
Before we move on, have you noticed the 272?
A bit.
Yeah?
A bit.
You get what he means?
Yes.
It's a whole rabbit hole. Once you start noticing it, you obsess.
Oh my god, there it is, 272. Oh my god.
I didn't notice it in summer during the friendlies, but I definitely saw it against Como in the first match. We started a bit shaky in that match. Cabal especially didn't start well. But then, after I'd say 15-20 minutes, you could see the players getting used to each other more, getting used to the system more. You could see Thiago Motta calming them down, kind of like telling them, look, you'll get into the system, you get used to it, the goals will come, the flow will come as well, and it did. And I think the 2 players who benefited the most are, at least up until the recording of this episode, are Cambiaso and Locatelli.
Yes,
I
yes,
agree.
yes.
I agree.
Locatelli is a different player.
It's true. It's true.
I still say he's always been a talented player, even though he had 3 unacceptable seasons with us. I still defended him. Actually, I have 2 Locatelli kids.
Wow. I've got one as well from when he scored against you.
Number 73.
He went mental. He had gone mental when he scored
Because
that.
he had scored the previous game against Sassuolo and he cried.
Exactly.
And in the span of a week, he scored against Juventus and he didn't
Exactly.
even cry. He was a different person completely.
yes.
He grew in the span of a
And
week.
then he joined
Knee
them both.
slide, arms open. Like you could tell, he was filled with confidence.
And then he
Exactly.
joined them both. He went to
And then-
Sassuolo.
Then he went to Sassuolo and
Juve.
Juve. Exactly. Wow.
I think
Hilarious.
Locatelli is a completely new player this season. He seems rejuvenated. I'm not sure if it's the change of coach, change of atmosphere. I don't know what it is. I would think it's the change of system, the whole system. I wouldn't blame Allegri because Allegri had a terrible team.
Uh-huh.
If Allegri had a good team, we wouldn't have done our best to sell like 10, 15 players.
Yeah, that's it. I think Locatelli is the kind of player that Italy could use at the moment. And once
I
again, he
think so.
wasn't called up. Now, obviously, there's Ricci, who is maybe more of a refined number 6,
Yes,
but I think Locatelli gives you a more well-rounded quality.
Locatelli
he's
isn't a
more
regista, man.
industrious.
That's what people
That's
don't,
it.
don't
That's
get.
it.
Like,
He's more
he's-
industrious, yeah.
And he's doing really well defensively, especially. He's winning a lot of balls, a lot. And him and Fagioli complement each other a lot.
And
Fagioli is having a crazy
tell
season.
me about
I love
Cambiaso,
Fagioli,
man. I just want to hear about Cambiaso. What a talent, what
He's a
talent.
brilliant player.
Which foot is his strongest? Because he's
I
so
don't
good with
know.
both.
I would still say it's his right foot.
His right foot.
Probably. His left foot is almost as equally as good, don't get me wrong. But what I love the most about him is probably his positioning. He reads the game really well. He knows when to defend, knows when to attack. He knows when to stay back as well, which is quite difficult for someone like him.
It's true.
He sometimes plays as left midfielder or right
Because he
midfielder.
inserts himself centrally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sometimes he's the most offensive player apart from Vlahovic. I would say the MVP of our season so far in the first 2 games has to be Cambiaso.
Even last season, I would say. Last season, from
Probably,
January
yes.
onwards, I would say it's Cambiaso.
I would say him and
Bremer.
Chesney. Last year, him, Chesney, and Bremer.
Chesney, a smoker, by the way. You
Yes.
saw that? You saw that?
Yes.
I
He's
had
been
no
up.
idea.
Apparently, Wenger had to sideline him
But
for a while.
to think, after saving Messi's penalty in the World Cup, he probably had a fat cigarette after. Oh, what a guy.
We can move on to a few individuals. I think, right?
You've signed Douglas Luiz, Di Gregorio, Kalulu, Cope Miners, Conceição.
Cabal.
I think all
10,
positive
11
things
players.
to say, but with some exceptions. What do you think of Douglas Luiz so far?
I still say he is our most talented midfielder.
Okay,
I still say that.
over Cope Miners, talent-wise.
Yes.
Wow.
I think if he gets going, he'll be our metronome. He
We debated this so hard. Will the metronome be Cope Miners or Douglas
Because they're both
Luiz?
very versatile.
Yes,
They
yes,
can both
yes.
play the 6, they can both play the 10.
Exactly.
I see Cop Miners as a more offensive player.
Yes.
Douglas Luiz. The thing with Douglas Luiz is this: he's getting there's a lot of heat on him. Let's put it that way. The thing is, he made 2 huge mistakes. Obviously, one against Cagliari and the other against Leipzig.
In 2 weeks, right?
Pretty much.
in 1 week,
less,
pretty
less,
much.
in a few days, I think.
2 penalties given
But
away.
the thing is, when he came on, in my opinion at least, there were times where he was actually really good. Really, really good. Not as good as he was for Aston Villa.
Obviously, because it's a new team. New
Exactly.
environment.
But I still say he can be an important player for our team.
Yeah.
At face value, in terms of raw talent, if you look at our midfield, I personally believe that he has the most talent.
Okay.
Right now, he's not showing it. Right now, I think our best performing midfielder, it has to be Locatelli.
Yeah.
I
Or Fagioli.
agree.
Or Fagioli, yes.
Uh-huh.
I would say Locatelli, though.
Uh-huh.
Because Fagioli had a couple of bad games. Locatelli hasn't. Locatelli has
He's been
played.
solid throughout, right?
Yes, he's been very, very consistent.
I think when it comes to maybe technical ability, Douglas Luiz might be the best, but when it comes to intelligence, I don't think you have anyone smarter than Coop Miners. Coop Miners
Miners,
reads the
yes.
game
He-
incredibly well, man. He orchestrates the
assists.
movement of his teammates, tells them where to go.
Yes,
In
goes
terms
without
of
touching the ball.
midfielders or
Yeah.
the whole team?
In terms of midfielders, I'm
Yes.
saying. Yeah.
So I would say it's
The whole
Cup
team, you have
minus.
a few intelligent players.
No, I've seen him assist goals without touching
Yes.
the ball. Like just from his runs off the ball where
last
he
game,
doesn't
I
get
think.
the.
He
Yeah,
let us
And
run,
even
right?
with us, he's played well.
he has. I think he's felt the occasion a little bit. You see him as well. He goes to take a corner. He waves to the fans. He's relishing it, and obviously that comes with nerves,
He's
right?
starstruck.
Exactly.
He needs time, but he's already done quite
And
well. in my
also,
opinion.
I'm gonna say, every new signing that's been signed from another Serie A team, it must be a culture shock having the fans so fucking close to you.
That's
it,
true.
it has to be a factor. Like, there's no way it isn't, because in San Siro, for example, you've got your fans up on a balcony.
Yes.
All of a sudden, a fan can come on the pitch and slap
The
you in the
pressure of
face.
joining Genoa as well, because
Uh-huh.
the stadiums, the stands are touching the pitch.
Literally.
I went to that stadium. I went
amazing.
to watch Sampdoria Milan.
You took a piss there?
You went to watch.
The toilet is a disaster.
You
It's
went
a
to
hole
watch
in the ground.
Sampdoria Milan when Brahim
I
scored
watched
opening of the
Genoa
season.
Milan, I believe.
No.
Genoa. Was it Sampdoria?
Sampdoria, dog.
It was one of them. It was at that stadium, and it was bloody incredible. The vibes were amazing. But no, I think it was Genoa, bro, if I'm not mistaken. And the fans were on strike.
I know you were there and I wasn't, but it was so
Sampdoria.
Sampdoria.
My
It was
memory
so
fails me. I remember
Sampdoria.
Brahim Diaz scored though. It was
Exactly.
a 1-0 victory.
Underneath Audero.
Yeah.
The ball went
Yes,
underneath
yeah, you're
Audero.
fucking
Sampdoria.
right. Sampdoria.
Yes,
Sampdoria. It
Sampdoria.
was.
I
Oh my
watched
God. The fans were on strike, in fact. They got relegated a few years
Sampdoria
ago.
Milan, I think it was 2014, and Sharawi scored.
Oh, nice. Cult hero.
They drew 2-2.
How happy are you with Di Gregorio? Because personally,
happy.
I think he's one of my favorite keepers in the
Very
league.
happy.
He's
Was
super-
he my first option? No. My first option was actually Carnesecchi.
Wow.
Fantastic player as well.
But,
Fantastic
again, Carnesecchi would have been much more expensive, probably twice the price. And secondly, back to what we've already said a couple of times, if that is the player the coach wants, then what Adam Vella says as a supporter means absolutely nothing.
Okay. Kalulu, we've spoken about. Coop Miners, we've spoken about a bit.
Conceição.
Conceição, a very hot talent. huh?
Conceição, man. Conceição, he played against us when he was a Porto player, when they knocked us out. So he's already experienced in the Champions League, because they knocked us out under Pirlo. So a few years back now, 4 years ago. Or 5, I'm not good at mess. Conceição, I've actually watched him play a couple of times for the under-21 national team. He played against Italy, and he drove them crazy. He destroyed them. Scalvino was in that team. He completely bettered him. I don't like judging a player on a couple of games, but from what I saw, I was really happy with the player. From what I've
winning
seen,
mentality.
yes.
So,
And
sore loser. which
From
you
what
like
I
to
saw
see.
before he joined us, I was happy. From what I've seen so far, I'm very happy.
He
Hopefully
offers
we
you
can keep him.
a new avenue for attack, man. You don't have anyone like
Yes.
this. He's so
No.
direct and skillful, and he's a crazy dribbler as well. Not
He
afraid,
reminds
he's
me.
brave.
He reminds me of a healthy Douglas Costa.
Oh, good point. Good point. It's gonna be interesting because him and Nico are both right-sided players. They're gonna have to battle it out, huh? Because I think Yildiz is undisputed, just even for the future.
Keep in mind how many games we have to play.
Yes, absolutely. It shouldn't be a
He
problem.
reminds me of a player who played for us way back, Rui Barros.
Okay.
Short player, fast, very dynamic, can
Get sent off for
dribble.
diving.
Stupid decision.
It wasn't a red, in my opinion, though.
It was a stupid decision by the referee.
Okay, yeah.
And because the thing is, if you give a yellow card for every single type of dive you see, some team is going to forfeit the match.
I think it's the personality, the way that he complained.
Yes.
He aggravates the referees, right?
That's it.
He
He's
didn't
gets under
irritated.
their skin.
Let me put it this
Like
way.
his father as a player.
Let me put it this way. He didn't help his cause. But Conceição, in my opinion, he's a brilliant player so far, at least.
How do you think Juve should? Of course, there's Nico Gonzalez, but I think we should move on to Bremer because this is the breaking news for Juve. How should this injury be handled? Now, of course, the media is going mental. They're talking about Sergio Ramos. They're talking about Milan Skriniar. How do you think Juve should approach this? Should they dabble into the free agent market? Should they wait till January? Should they wait for Bremer to come back? What's the
No,
solution?
we've already mentioned Ismaili and Drugani
Exactly.
in here.
when it comes to waiting for Bremer, I mean, in the very, very best case scenario that everything goes well, he should be back May or June. So.
Yeah.
And it's obviously impossible for him to be back this season. So in my opinion, we should sign someone in January. Now, the media, no one reliable, but the media did mention Sergio Ramos and Skriniar. Two brilliant players, especially Sergio Ramos, one of the best ever. But I think he's past his prime.
Yes, absolutely. Quite
Skriniar
significantly.
lost his place with PSG. Don't really like him as a character, let me put it that way.
Why?
A never-ending list. I can write you a dissertation.
Because he moves like Pobega.
But I can't doubt his quality as a player. I think he was born in 1995, if I recall correctly, so he's 30. I might be, no,
You heard that,
29.
Drake? Born in 1995, so he's 30.
29, turning 30, sorry.
Like Drake.
Like me. No,
I might be wrong though, but I think he was born in 94 or 95. So he's young for a defender. But again, does he fit that system? I don't know.
29
Ramos,
is that?
29.
So 11th February, bro. He's right between us.
Hell.
He always scores against Malta as well. That's Skriniar, which I hate
Fuck
as
him.
well. Can't stand him.
Explain to me what profile you're looking for as a centre back in Motta's system now.
A ball winner who can play the ball.
Okay.
Like
Calafiori
in my
being a prime
opinion, Bonucci would have been amazing in this team.
example.
He was, when we played with a 3-man midfield, he was our fourth midfielder. When we played with a 4-man midfield, the 4-3-1-2 with Pogba, Pirlo, Vidal and Marquisio, he was our fifth midfielder.
And he always forced the high press, creating
Exactly.
pockets of space.
Exactly.
It's perfect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So someone like him, who ideally is a bit more defensively sound, would be perfect. If I had to take my pick, I would go for Jonathan Tah, but Leverkusen are not going to sell one of their best players in January after keeping Xabi Alonso. So I would say if we can manage to bring back Rugani, he doesn't fit that characteristic, but he is a good player, in my opinion at least.
Yes.
He is a player who never complained. Overall, he did well. So he would be my pick. If not him, we need to invest and go for someone like Ismaili from Empoli.
But it wouldn't be a crazy investment. I don't think
so.
28 years old, you know, he's been around for a while, but he's never really...
I'm sure I'm forgetting someone. Or else see what the under 23s can produce or what the under 19s can produce, and give someone from there a chance.
Huijsen, now that I never thought about, but Huijsen would have been
Huijsen
perfect.
Would be perfect. He would be. And there's
And
like,
I think he would have thrived.
Dragusin.
Do you know
who
how
they let
Dragusin-
go
do you
at
know
a
how-
young
Dragusin
age.
might be an avenue to explore. Try bring him on loan.
But it's true he's not starting at Spurs. But remember the amount of games that are
Exactly.
being played. So he'll be of use for sure. But Dragusin, you had him at your youth. In fact, he used to loan money to
He used to lend
Fajol.
money to Fajol, bail him out a bit. He told me he was going to buy a watch.
At least Fajoli, though, joking aside, he seems to be out of it.
Yes.
You
It's
believe
good
that
to
that's
see.
why he cried when he was substituted after his mistake? There was an episode where he was
I think that was
substituted.
against Sassuolo.
Yes,
if I
I think
recall
so.
correctly.
Yes.
Look, players and people say a lot of things. It could be the case. It could be he knew that they were zeroing in on him, perhaps. And when he was playing, me and one of my closest friends, we were talking about like what the fuck happened to Fajol this season, because he wasn't playing well at all. And we were like, why isn't Allegri playing him? Then when his hand was forced to play him because of injuries, and he played terribly, then alright, that's why he isn't playing him.
Something's up.
Exactly. And then we got to know what was up. It was quite huge.
In Maltese we say Shabba fucking Dane.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk Paul Pogba, man. The news has come in that his suspension has been cut drastically and he'll be back in 2025, right?
In March, he can start training in January.
In another team's kit.
Yes, right.
He can leave.
What do you think is there's a whole thing that he's potentially going to take a wage cut to stay at Juve, right?
He wanted to take a wage cut. He said he would accept away cut, he tried to pull a Del Piero on us, but there's only one Alessandro Del Piero. And if there was another, it would definitely not be Paul Pogba. First of all, let me give you my opinion on Pogba. He was a brilliant talent with us. Then he signed for the club that pretty much threw him away. He said he signed for them out of love. He signed for them because he tripled his salary.
Yeah,
And I did not want him back. Out of spite, I admit. Out of spite and stubbornness. I'm not questioning his ability. Although I still say that players like Vidal, Marquisio, and to a lesser extent players like Pereira and Sturaro, with their limitations, with their many limitations, the last two, covered a lot of his mistakes. When he played for Manchester United, he didn't have Chiellini, Bonucci, Barzagli, and Benatia with him. He had Jones and Smalling, if I recall correctly.
Very different.
Exactly. He didn't have Allegri coaching him. He had Mourinho, who, if I recall correctly, called him a cancer. He had Solskjaer, who ironically gave him his best season, but Solskjaer is no Conte or Allegri.
No.
In terms of coaching, obviously. In terms of play, he was brilliant.
Yes.
I didn't want him back because, first of all, he had that nagging injury. That that United just couldn't understand, I think, what was going on.
And then he refused the surgery.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He refused surgery, so he would play for the Euros or World Cup.
The World Cup. The World Cup with France, yeah.
He wasn't called up, and then he obviously had the surgery done. Whether it is true or not that he's willing to accept a pay cut, I really don't care, personally. The team, I won't say the team is fully settled, but the team is settling in. I would say if he were to reintegrate himself in the team, then he would be the most talented midfielder we have. But I still don't want him there, personally. So I don't care if he signs for Inter and if he becomes the best player in the world. I really don't care.
How old will he be when he's back?
He was born in 1993.
You've just put me on the spot.
Sorry. So he's 31 at the
He'll
moment.
be 32 when he's back, I think.
Depending on the man.
I mean, he's got a lot left to give if he's been professional during this time out.
And he's very technical and he has good vision,
Yes.
which are two
Like,
abilities that you don't lose with
Don't
age.
get me wrong. If right now Juventus are dead set on not selling him, on terminating his contract.
And removing his wages, which
Pretty
is what
But
you've
if
been doing all
Juventus-
season.
If Juventus, surprisingly, actually do make a U-turn and reintegrate him in the squad, if he stays healthy, he'll definitely be an asset. Don't get me wrong. But in all honesty, I don't think he should stay there. I think we need to get rid of him, and he needs a new adventure.
Is it a personality issue as well?
In my case,
or like an off the pitch?
I still haven't forgiven him for leaving us to join Manchester United.
Okay.
Not because I don't like Manchester United, because, like I said last time, I have a lot of respect for that club.
Yes.
But the thing is, he left us when we had a super team at that time. He left us in the summer, got Pjanic, Higuain, Benatia.
It's like leaving your wife for the ex who left you.
Exactly. Dani Alves. Yeah. Now, people say maybe without Pogba's money, we wouldn't have been in a position to get Higuain. That's debatable. He left us to join the team that didn't believe in him enough for him to play for the first team. Or long enough to play for the first team. And they were a Europa League team.
Yes.
In that season, they won the Europa League. We lost the Champions League final.
Leveled.
Exactly. Yeah. So personally, I'm just not a fan of his anymore.
Okay.
That's fair.
Fair enough.
That's
fair
fair.
enough. So
if you leave, you leave. You left. Bye. That's
so
it.
Bonucci, I assume you weren't too thrilled that he came back.
Bonucci, in my opinion, it was a different scenario though. Bonucci, you had a couple of issues. First of all, you're either keeping the coach or the player. You're keeping the manager.
Usually, like in the case of Papu Gomez and Gasperini.
You have to keep the manager. Secondly, because of his son's treatment, he wanted to stay in Italy.
Mm-hmm.
He had offers to go to play for Pep Guardiola's City or Chelsea. But he preferred staying in Italy because of his son's treatment. So in Bonucci's case, I was actually overall quite fine with it. Plus, he's a player I really love.
Mm-hmm.
My friends
Even
disagree
when
with
he
me.
fucking did this to you.
When you have, yes, because
Under your fan.
when you have thousands of people making reference to your very, very ill son, you forget about club colours and all that stuff.
That's true.
That was
that
one of my
wasn't-
favorite moments as a
to
Milan
me-
fan when he scored
to
against
me,
us.
that wasn't
the
that-
adrenaline
To me, that wasn't a dig at the club. It was a dig at those people
who were there.
who were there, exactly.
Shades of the Bala stare at the
Exactly.
management, staring up at them.
I still agree with Juventus not renewing the Balas contract. 100%.
The Balas, all talk, no walk. I mean, he's too injury prone, he's too
Exactly.
inconsistent. He's
Like
not a player you can
sometimes-
base a project
He's
around.
fucking magic is what
sometimes
he is.
he
what
has
I get
it,
you.
yes.
When he's good, he's really, really, really good.
It's fantastic.
But you can't do that once every 2-3 games.
No, the thing is, if a season is 38 games long, be good for 12, and then he's injured for 10, and he's
And I think he does
benched
succumb
and
to
brought
pressure.
on for the rest of them. It's too.
And I think he does succumb to pressure a bit.
But I think it's important for a team like Juve who pay so many wages, and now you're like getting over that to remove players like Chiesa and Dybala.
And Roma are trying to do the same. I
We're
mean,
now,
the whole thing
for,
with
for the
Rossi, you know?
first time in I don't know how many years, we are not the team with the highest wage bill anymore. It's Inter.
It's Inter.
Apart from that, just to see how rejuvenated the team is, when we play the season,
Rejuvenated.
What's a Juve?
we barely have players who are 30 years old. There's Danilo, centre back. Pinsolio, who's the third keeper.
And the club mascot.
Exactly. Perrin, who's the reserve keeper. And Milik. As far as I know, those are the only 30
so.
plus year old players that we have. Apart from that, the team we fielded against either Verona or Como, if not both, was our youngest team in like 30 years.
Wow.
Nice.
Which is no joke.
Wow. Speaking of, on the topic of young players, definitely Motta is the kind of guy to show faith in certain young talent. And this season we were surprised by two in particular. I know there are more, but Mbangula scored on his debut and assisted later on as well. Savona, who grabbed the goal himself as
Now,
well.
For us, people who don't watch Juve and aren't like as focused on their youth team and their youth setup, for us it seemed like these players were being randomly generated, like on FIFA career mode, and they were scoring. You know, who are these people and how are they doing so well?
So, Savona actually stepped up. Because, in my opinion, he wasn't that good at younger levels. I won't say he was a bad player. To me, a bad player is Danilo. God, I can't stand him.
Why? Sorry, maybe we should talk about this later, but why can't you stand Danilo?
Let me finish off on the upstairs, because all I can say about them is that they've all stepped up. And Mbangula was actually quite good already. But again, playing against Inter's under 19s or playing against a team in Serie A is one thing, but playing in top level Serie A football, it's another. But so far, in my opinion, so far so good. Savona, in my view, is a fullback who can do anything he's asked to do. He does anything that's asked of him. He can defend, he can win a ball. And what I enjoyed the most about him was that he wasn't afraid to take risks. And again, I saw comments online, people complaining that he lost the ball a couple of times. Alright, yes, but I prefer someone like him who can take a risk, who can attack, who does his best to do something effective, rather than, again, a Danilo who just passes it back to the centre back or the goalkeeper. Then, apart from Mbangula and Savona, there's Rui. We've only seen him once play for the first team when we played away against Genoa.
For those who don't know, tell who is Rui?
Rui is Swedish. He plays at left back, but he used to play as well as centre back at younger level. But again, when you play for the youth teams, you can experiment here or there. It's easier to do so. In my opinion, his best position is still left back. Defensively, he's not the best. He's no Patrice Evra. Let's put it that way. But in my opinion, with some more game time, he can do that. And if we don't sign a centre back, I see Juventus playing Cabal at centre back as well.
Yes. He's got the physical.
There's
and
Kalulu
the
and
aggression
Gatti,
for
but
it.
again, you need to alternate. And maybe Rui will play at left back. And I'm not mentioning Danilo at centre back purely because Thiago Motta just doesn't seem to want to play him there. Plain and simple.
And your personal views on Danilo as a player, don't you think he could give you a play? He's a player who's played primarily as fullback in his career, right? So his ball playing ability should be technically better than that of a centre back.
should.
So he, in theory, fits the mold that Motta wants as a centre back.
But there's a huge difference between theory and practice. I guess. Danilo, first of all,
Fucking roasted, bro.
when we signed him, I mean, keep in mind, we traded Cancelo for him. Now, Cancelo couldn't defend, I admit that. But the guy could attack.
Yes.
Cancelo would be perfect, in my opinion, as a wing back. Like that, imagine DeMarco on one side.
And like a
Cancelo.
3-5-2, yeah.
Obviously, they would need to learn how to defend. Both of them.
Cancelo would need to learn
but
how to
but
interact
imagine-
with people because I think he's got personality issues. That must be the case because a player that good can't just
Jump
settle at
from
a
one
club.
side.
It's weird. It's bizarre.
Why don't I like Danilo? I think he is a player of integrity, let me put it that way. He clearly loves the club. And he does his best. But his best, in my opinion, it's just not enough. Why? He's a fullback who can easily be overtaken. And has no recovery at all.
Yes.
He's a fullback who can't cross the ball. He's a centre back who's not always very good at positioning. I think his best trait is actually his heading. In my opinion, at least. And his best position was right centre back in a three-man defense.
I was going to say, that's probably what he should do.
Defense with, actually, Pirlo was the one who played him there. Pirlo, I can't remember, it was 3-4-3 or 3-5-2, probably 3-5-2, with Ronaldo and Kulusevski up front. Danilo played at right centre back, and my first reaction was, what's Pirlo doing? But he actually played well. But to me, a decent season or two is not enough. He played for Manchester City and he played for Real Madrid. True. But those two clubs sold him as well.
I didn't like him at Real Madrid personally. I didn't think he was
He
very
played the
good.
Champions League final because Carvajal got injured during the match. The one that they won in Milan, in the San Siro. I think it was Carvajal who got injured.
Yeah,
if I remember correctly.
Carvajal, I recall him getting injured in 2 or 3 Champions League finals and being stretchered off crying, man.
Unlucky, man.
It's really unfortunate.
Okay, fair enough. So Danilo is past. Fair points.
You mentioned Ronaldo. I think as Milan fans, the big signings that we remember, like top tier signings when Milan signed Ronaldinho.
Yeah.
When
Ibrahimovic.
Zlatan signed.
I'd say Robinho was quite big at
Robinho.
that time.
It's
As
true.
well.
Milan are known for
Piontek.
signing, but no, it's not the same
I know
caliber.
it's not the
you know?
same, but
Milan
I was
don't
hyped
sign
about Piontek.
superstars; they sell
made
them.
Yes, but
they make
Ronaldinho
them.
was.
They make them as a-
My point is, Ronaldinho was a superstar. Zlatan
Yes.
was a superstar, but none at the caliber of Cristiano
Yes.
Ronaldo. And your team actually signed Ronaldo. We'll talk about the effects of that signing after and how that triggered a lot of unfortunate events for Juve.
A series of unfortunate events.
Yeah.
But your team signed Ronaldo. How was that?
I remember when the story first came out. I was eating at a restaurant with my friends. Can we mention the name?
Yes, man.
We were at Buffalo Bills,
Sponsor us now.
Right now.
and we were a group of 5. Two Juventus supporters, a Milan, a Liverpool fan, and someone who just doesn't care about football.
For him, how many of the conversation?
Exactly. But then I'm actually jealous of him because he doesn't have this type of stress and agony. And my Juventus friend, my Juventus supporting friend, showed me his phone and he said, "Look at this." My first reaction was slow news day in Spain. A day later, Agresti mentioned it. He said, "Juventus actually interested in doing this." Romano then said it, Juventus are going for it. Then a few days later, I remember Agresti tweeted, it's actually happening. Like, alright, wow. I took the day off from work
You're hilarious, man.
to track the flight.
No, you didn't.
Yes.
You didn't.
He went to either Cyprus or Greece to meet with Agnelli, and they took a photo. It was him, Mendes.
Mushi has a Turkish lover as well.
Maybe I met him as well.
And I was like, Jesus Christ, is this really happening? And I went crazy. Oh, I mean, he scored 10 times against us, which is, and considering
One of the most historic Champions League goals in history. As
There's
well.
one where he
Like,
does his celebration and he's in awe about like the sound of it,
Yes.
of the opposing fans. I think it was,
Clapping.
or when they
Juventus
applauded
were
him.
applauding him.
exactly, he scored against us. He scored that goal, and our fans started applauding him. Next season, he joined us.
That's incredible.
I obviously said I'm buying his kit, and that was, in my opinion, that transfer market was a statement transfer market. Now, we didn't do well in the Champions League. We got eliminated by Ajax, which in my opinion was humiliating.
In the
'Cause the goal was
quarters,
to win it.
In the quarters,
Because then they knocked
They
out.
knocked
They
out-
got knocked out by Spurs.
They
they,
were
I
wicked
believe
that
they knocked
season.
out Real Madrid in the
Yes.
round of 16.
That was the season
But
of Donny
they-
van de Beek,
Yes.
Ziyech was
De
it?
Ligt.
They-
They
when
licked all those
the
guys,
final
yeah.
was Liverpool
Was
Spurs.
Mahrez? No, not Mahrez. Neres.
Yes.
Tadic.
And
Tadic
you
as
guys
well.
had set up a team specifically to win the Champions
And
League.
when
Even
you
bringing
consider-
Bonucci back was...
That transfer market, so Buffon left.
Mm-hmm.
Perin was signed. We got Cancelo, Emre Can on a free.
Hadn't Bonucci joined again that
Yes,
season?
he came back that season. Who else came? Who else was signed that season? Even if you see like the starting 11, man. Szczesny,
Yeah.
Cancelo, Alexandro, in my opinion, the weak point of that starting 11. Chiellini and Bonucci. It was Barzali's last season. There was Rugani as well. Midfield, there was Pjanic, Matuidi, Khedira, Emre Can, Bentancur. Then up front, you had Cuadrado, Douglas Costa, Bernardeschi, Dybala, Mandzukic,
Wicked.
and Ronaldo, obviously.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, that match against Atletico that season,
Yes.
I think round of 16.
yes, round of 6. We lost
Hat-trick.
2-0 away and we won 3-0 at home.
The infamous grabbing balls
Exactly.
celebration.
Exactly. That was a dig at Simeone.
Yes, of course.
So when we signed him, it was something out of this world. But then at the same time, after obviously the first couple of days, then I was like, what happens if we don't win the Champions League this year?
Problems.
What are the repercussions? Because obviously it's still not a guarantee. There are other teams that are very strong. That year, in my opinion, Liverpool deservingly won the Champions League. But God knows what would have happened if we played them in the final. They might have bettered us, I don't know. But maybe we would have beaten them as well. And some of our performances in that season were quite disappointing. In fact, in that season, I thought, look, Allegri's time is done. We need something fresh. And then we kept him for another season. Which was something I wasn't sure of.
Keeping
No,
Ronaldo.
actually, no. Sorry. We kept the season before we were meant to sack him. We kept him for yet another season, which was Ronaldo's year. Then we got Sarri.
Yeah, exactly.
Then we got Sarri, which was a signing I didn't agree with.
Even after he almost took it from you, almost took the 8th in a row from you with Napoli.
Yes, he's...
But Napoli and Juventus are two different animals.
And Sarri doesn't fit the culture of Juve.
Exactly.
True. Well, when he's sniffing a cigarette packet and chewing on a cigarette
that
filter
sense.
Playing
on
with
the
his
touchline.
boogies, yeah.
Playing
In
with
that
his
sense,
boogies.
man, he is not the Juventus type of manager.
Yeah.
No. I think Motta fits the mold.
so.
We can move on to one last question before we get into our Streets Won't Forget players. If you were at the stadium for Juventus against Napoli and Conte walked out, are you clapping or are you booing?
Depending on his attitude, but probably I wouldn't do neither.
You wouldn't do it.
I just sit there,
Okay. So you don't.
probably.
Okay.
What's
Because
your emotions towards him?
because
I say the word Conte, what comes to mind?
professional. Because
Mm.
if Inter were to give me $1 million a month, like he had, I think, 12 million a year with them.
Respect.
So assuming that is correct, if Inter were to give me $1 million a month, I would sign for them as well.
Yeah.
I think all three of us would.
Yeah.
For $1 million a month, I'd probably do it.
I would do it definitely. $1 million a month.
Time for Inter.
He made
$1 million a month.
he took a professional decision to join Inter. The one thing I didn't like about him was the way he left, like in the middle of pre-season, actually towards the end. He could have screwed us over. In fact, he almost did, because Evra, Morata and Pereira's transfers were paused just to see that the new manager actually wants them. And the first thing Allegri did was, he said, I don't want to disrupt anything, bring them in. Which goes to show as well, in my opinion, the integrity of Allegri. Or at least the integrity he had at the time, let me put it that way.
It slowly faded over time.
Very good. So we've got 8 niche Juventus players over here. We can do this rapid fire.
Alright.
Okay, I just want you to give us
One word.
a few, like a few sentences.
I don't
to-
know shit about
Yeah,
these
yeah, yeah.
guys.
Okay.
So
Hopefully they're ones I know.
No, you definitely know them. So let's start with Fabrizio Ravanelli,
Ravanelli.
the white feather.
Yes. So obviously Ravanelli is mostly known for scoring the goal in the Champions League final against Ajax. One thing I'll say about him is, people talk about him obviously with very fond memories, but Matri scored a similar amount of goals
Yeah.
for Juventus.
Matri's infamous. Huh? He's
You know,
underrated.
standards.
Yeah.
Ravanelli loved the team. He still does. He speaks about Juventus and Middlesbrough with a lot of passion. In my opinion, quite underrated, but at the same time, he's not at the levels of Inzaghi, for example, in my opinion, or Vieri. He gave his heart for the club, played quite well. He actually worked hard a lot. But again, I think he obviously he's most known for that goal and his celebration, with the t-shirt. and
yeah.
all that
He had a
stuff.
big personality. I think,
Yes,
as well,
exactly.
yeah. Alessio Tacchinardi, over 400 games. For you, huh?
Criminally underrated.
what was he good? Why was he good?
Power shot. Strong, very strong. He can tackle. He could do anything, pretty much anything in midfield. He wasn't as elegant as I don't know, as Zidane, for example. But then at the same time,
Who is?
But he got the job done. He fought a lot for the ball, and keep in mind, he played with players like Conte and Delivio and Deschamps in midfield. So he had to fight for his place.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. It's like that story of Kevin Prince Boateng. To keep up and to actually play for Milan, he had to just train more and work harder than
exactly.
everyone else.
Yeah.
So when everyone
For
was,
some players, it comes naturally, but for others, they need to really work hard.
Now we're going to talk about a man who embodies the Uruguayan mentality and the
Montero.
archetype, exactly, of the typical Uruguayan player. No, aggressive,
My
tough,
God, aren't
no
they
nonsense.
the coolest, man?
They're
Aren't
so
they
tough.
The coolest.
Yeah.
Montero.
Valverde is one of my favorite midfielders nowadays.
So good, so good.
He's so fun.
Montero, his son plays for us now, eh?
Montero, some plays for
Really?
you, really?
Alfonso Montero.
Oh,
How old is he?
17, I think
Okay.
16. Probably even younger.
So he's with the next gen.
No, younger.
Okay.
wow. Okay.
Up until last year, he played for the under-19s.
It has a ring to it, his name.
Alfonso Montero.
Alfonso Montero.
And he's the spitting image of his father.
Ah, they-
Let me find him.
2007 born.
Wow.
Spitting image of his father.
That's crazy.
Christ.
That's crazy.
He got sent off.
No shit. No shit.
There we go. Just like his daddy.
He
So-
plays at centre back,
Okay.
obviously. He actually is quite similar to his father, but let me talk about Paolo Montero, his father. He wouldn't manage in today's game because it was either the ball or your ankle, or knee, or both at the same time.
One VAR check and he's finished.
Exactly. Actually, no, he wouldn't even need it.
To be clear,
He
just show him the hole in his foot, like from the
Exactly.
studs.
he was a gladiator, but for today's game, I think he would be classified as being too clumsy.
Okay.
But I obviously love Montero,
Okay.
Juventus legend.
So let's talk about someone who wasn't perhaps the flashiest, but especially during your Serie B season, he was quite good. We're talking about Angelo Di Livio.
Deleve actually was a player in the 90s.
Yeah.
Delevio was part of the team that won the Champions League and then lost another two. Another two finals. He was part of that Deschamps midfield, Tacchinardi, Conte. Eventually then came Zidane as well in 1997. Delevio was another warrior. I think Trapattoni used to take him everywhere with him, if I recall correctly. Delevio was the type of player who I can't compare no one to him from the modern game, because he wasn't the box-to-box player like Kante, for example, but he wasn't a lazy player neither.
Okay.
He could win the ball, he could pass the ball a lot. He didn't score out of goals. He wasn't that type of midfielder. But I would call him a workhorse.
Okay.
Darko Kovacevic.
Kovacevic was actually a utility player, in my opinion. You wouldn't want to play against the real Manchester United in Old Trafford with him, or against Liverpool at Anfield, or against Real Madrid and all of that stuff. He was a good player, but I wouldn't classify him. Like, if you were to tell me, mention the best 50 Juventus players of all time, probably I wouldn't mention Kovacevic. Maybe.
Okay, fair enough. The next one is a player who made many appearances off the bench. Most of his appearances came off the bench. And apparently every time he came on, the Juve fans would cheer, Padoin, every time he would come on.
Actually, they had a chant for him.
Yeah?
Che ci frega di Ronaldo, noi abbiamo Padoin.
That's a pretty good one. It's
Because
similar to the Solskjaer.
it was when we knocked out Real Madrid in the 2015 Champions League semi-final.
Okay.
And then when we knocked Barcelona out, they were singing Che ci frega di Leo Messi.
Of course.
Padoin, I wouldn't. He. Let me think about it. All right. He never did anything wrong. Let me put it that way. He could play at central midfield, mostly box to box, in my view at least. Conte and Allegri both used to play him as a wing back as well,
Okay.
Wow.
on the right, and he did his job well. But again, you don't want to play with Padoin against Bayern Munich, for
No.
example.
Fair enough. Mohamed Sissoko.
Unpopular opinion, I am not a fan of Sissoko.
Okay.
Okay.
We signed him in January 2008, if I recall correctly, from Liverpool. He was a defensive midfielder who could win the ball, but he would lose the ball as well.
Okay.
He once almost scored against Milan away. By almost, I mean he was facing, I think it was Abbiati, was the goalkeeper. It was the season when you guys won the league with Allegri. With Allegri.
2011. Yeah.
There's like season 10-11. I think it was Abbiati.
Yes.
Yes, it was.
He was one-on-one against the goalkeeper, went to shoot and slipped. But there was Del Piero behind him, and Del Piero scored.
Nah.
Okay. I don't remember that.
Sissoko had a couple of injury issues.
He was very injury prone, no, Sissoko?
Yes. I think he also had some eye issues as well,
Okay.
if I remember correctly. He really wasn't my favorite player. Like, when Marotta sold him, I was like, grazie Marotta.
Fair enough. The last one is a promising winger who came up through the system. He had quite a few. He didn't become a superstar. It's Raffaele Palladino, basically.
Palladino was unlucky because he was an attacker, but we had Del Piero, Trezeguet, and a very, very, in my opinion, valid Vincenzo Iaquinta in that team. So Ranieri used to play him as a left midfielder, right midfielder. I wouldn't call him a winger because we played 4-4-2, and usually on one side we had Camoranesi, on the other side we had Nedved.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, Nedved was getting older, and Camoranesi was always getting injured. It was the end of his career pretty much. So our options were Marco Marchionni, and Palladino. Palladino, again, as you rightly said, he wasn't like a top player, but for the team that we were at that time, he was good enough. At the time, our target was we need to qualify for the Champions League.
Yeah.
When we did qualify for the Champions League, it was clear that Palladino wasn't good enough.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it's always heartbreaking. Milan had the similar thing with Bonaventura, right?
Yeah.
The player who, when Milan took that next step, they abandoned him. He could have still been useful, but he wouldn't have been a centerpiece to Milan's game like he was before. We have a surprise for you. Before we show you what the surprise is, we're going to give a shout out to our patrons. Of course, we have a shout out to the people who keep the show going. Thank you very much to Ed, Alan, Andy, Lena, Mint, Tonna, Teo, Mattias, Luca, Anthony, Mike, Dave, Mastro Battista, Kyle, Andrew Batman, Sluge, McNoodle, Tim Campbell, Tonino, Batman, Choco Loco, Joey D, Tony, David Vavra, Keanu, Tyson, Stefan, Robert, Kurt, Pieter, Sal, Grima, Steve, Mattia, Nicholas Bosco, Sean Nolan, Nicholas Granda, Greta, and CJ. Thank you very much for keeping the show on the road. Now, before I show you the surprise, I'm going to show the camera the surprise so they know exactly what we're talking about.
It's brilliant. Brilliant.
I didn't have time to get it printed, but here you are. This will be the episode cover art.
Man, Vera Taiba. It's really good, really good.
I hope you like it and it can find a
do.
place in your home.
I actually have that kit somewhere.
No, you don't.
0809. Home kit.
Lovely. This is a Del Piero picture that I use as kind of reference.
He actually scored against Real Madrid in that kit.
At home. We spoke about it in that
He
episode.
scored against them at home in that kit, and then away he scored against them in the gold kit.
The free kick and the one from miles out, bro. The curl around Casillas. Wow.
It's been a pleasure, bro. You're so
Likewise.
fun to talk to, honestly.
Likewise,
You know so much. You're an encyclopedia when it comes to this stuff.
Literally.
Yeah, your mind is the same as your home. It's a museum.
Thank you very much,
Thank
bro.
you, guys. Thank you. And keep up the good work.
Thank you.
I appreciate you, brother. Thank you guys for listening. Don't forget to check out our last episode with Adam as well, where we check out his collection of football memorabilia with a special touch, Juve memorabilia as well, all the Del Piero kits in the world. But yeah, don't forget to like, subscribe, and do all those beautiful things. And we'll catch you all next week when we're back discussing Serie A. Love you all.
Thank you.
If you like Serie A or have ever liked it in the past, it's a good opportunity for you to listen once a week and you'll get filled in.
The football weekend, that's like the main dish. But then a few days later, you drop your episode and that's like the dessert. And the dessert is just perfect.
It's good, the cake.
It makes it feel like we're all sitting in a room together, just BSing with each other.
The atmosphere is fantastic.
I promise nobody will ask you to send boob pics.
Sometimes may be good, sometimes may be shit.
I love how you go into so much detail and show so much passion towards each and every team. Literally, no team is left undiscussed.
When I listen to you, it's like I'm talking to you in a pub. It's like I'm chatting to a friend and you're chatting to me.